Wow, season 3. It's been a while. Had a little bit of a break. Coming back for the third season of the podcast. It is the beginning of 2022. Can't believe we're already here. But we're going to talk about the new upcoming season called The Gift and kind of catch up since it's been a minute. So welcome back.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. 2022. It's kind of crazy. I thought, growing up and my past life and being in religion, it's like, the second coming's already going to come and the world would have been over already. But here we are.
Yep.
Crazy. Kind of a big year. How was your holiday season and New Year's?
I didn't do anything, which has kind of been the case the last few years. I'm not a big part.
Kind of your MO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just chill.
It was busy. So let's kind of start off talking about the new year. I'm curious from your perspective because I know when we talked over the course of the holiday season, you said that you kind of take that last week of the year in December to kind of think about, right, the last year, what types of changes, how life has been, and then from there looking forward to the new year. And I know New Year's resolution is always the topic of conversation when it gets to this point of year. However, what is it, like 70% of people already break their New Year's resolutions by January 17th or something like that.
Yep.
So maybe walk through what do you do for you during that time, the week where you kind of just evaluate everything.
I just listen. That simple as that. I just try to listen to see what words or phrases or themes keep coming up, and then kind of keeping track of those things, and then just going with a theme. So I don't have a resolution. It's just more, hey, here's the theme for this coming year. And, last year was to only invest my time, money, and energy in things that boosted my self-confidence, self-esteem. This year is, to continue with that. That was the foundation. But this year is to really just, it's those things that you should do that you haven't done or you're not doing. It's to now do those things. So it's really simple for me this year. The intention is do the thing. That's it.
So it's the theme of 2022 for you.
Yeah, do the thing.
Do the thing.
Yep.
That sounds. I think that sounds like a slogan somewhere coming up.
Probably.
Maybe we can coin it. Do the thing.
T-shirt.
So let's talk about last year. So last year's theme for you was to basically do things that kind of help build your self-confidence. Yep. So if you were to kind of say, what are your, 3 to 5 highlights of last year that you did differently from any other year, what would those things be for you?
Well, that would, first and foremost, the easiest thing to do with that was to start going to the gym to work out. That's probably the quickest way someone can realize an impact from trying to build their self-confidence. And when they look in the mirror and they like what they see, oh, wow, yeah. So it was that. That was the first thing. Then from there, it was reading and listening to books. That actually, there's a couple good books by, I can't remember his name. His first name's Nathaniel. I think it's Nathaniel Braden. He's like an expert on self-esteem. So I started off the year listening to his book while I'd be on the treadmill at the gym, listening to his thoughts on self-esteem. And some interesting things that a lot of people think that if you have a high self-esteem that you're arrogant, and that's not true. Not true at all. You should have because self-esteem is really just thinking highly of yourself, that you're not beating yourself up, you're not beating yourself down. You're, hey, I'm capable. And then from there, it was really just books, just listening to different books, and books would show up, that 4 C's book, the commitment, capability, confidence, commitment, courage, capability, and then confidence. So then I was finding books that talked about the process of building self-esteem. So that's really the highlights of the year for me, was mostly going to the gym and getting more serious about my health, about the decisions I was making. A lot of friends, quote friends, fell off. New ones, you know what I mean? Like new relationships, old relationships, and what I found towards the end of the year was that it didn't bother me, the ones that kind of fell off.
Yeah.
Just lost touch. It wasn't anything happened that I can't be your friend because you're no. It's just more, we've just lost touch, because I think I changed. So if anybody came to me, you've changed, I'm like, yeah, I have.
Yeah. It's interesting that we don't really pay attention to how we change. I think, to your point, the physical aspect of going to the gym and seeing something day in and day out and month over month, I think those are easy ones to kind of pick out and to really see and measure. But I think the growth mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I think those changes happen very drastic. And I think that's really where you see a lot of change in all of a sudden who's around you, right? As those growth. And I would say, just on my perception of you as well, and a lot of our conversations over the course of last year and doing the different podcast episodes, that there was a big growth. Not only just physically for you getting back in the gym, but I think that there is times where we had conversations of you asking kind of exploratory questions about you and saying, I want to know more. And I think this is a very interesting topic, because I would never coin you as a person that's insecure or doesn't have self-esteem, right? And I don't think that it's you don't have self-esteem. I think that the intention was just, hey, it's time to just grow and step up into a little bit more into who I am more authentically, right?
Yeah. I mean, invest my time, money, and energy in things that build it. And if it's not something that's building my self-esteem or increasing it, helping me increase it, then it's not worth it. And that could be people, could be places, could be things, could be hobbies. It just runs the whole gamut.
What was one thing that you stopped doing last year because of that you thought you would never stop doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure there's something, but it wasn't even like a physical, like, I'm done, I'm stopping doing this.
Yeah.
I didn't have a stop doing list. It's just more about things just kind of
evolved.
They just became unimportant. And so now when they don't even cross my mind. I mean, you might think of something that I would used to do, and we haven't seen each other for 2 months, but it's like, you might think of something like, oh, you remember when you used to, but and it's just really playing around with what works best. And I'll use the gym as an example, because when I started off the year, I'd go to the gym after work. But then I would be up late. Then I would go to work, and then I'm tired, I'm this, or I'm that, right? And I made the switch probably in August or maybe July. Switched and started going to the gym in the morning, which changed my whole attitude at work, because I had learned that I would get upset if I didn't do something for myself during the day. So to get up in the morning, 6 a.m., the first thing I do is what I want to do. Totally changed my attitude. I'd go into work like, hey, look, I've already done my thing. So, whatever's coming my way during the day, I'm not going to get upset because I've already done my thing. And I could actually go back and do it again if I want after work. So that was one of the slight changes in just playing around with myself, my time, my energy, and seeing what works.
Well, and even with that, there was actually an incident at work that kind of pushed you into that, right?
Yeah.
There was a situation where things kind of fell apart on a certain thing. You felt like you kind of dropped the ball. You're going to get blamed, whether it was fairly or justly or unjustly. But, you're put in a kind of a situation to really evaluate. And there was a point in time where you were like, man, fuck this job. I'm out, type thing, right? But then reevaluating it, taking a step back, looking at it from a different lens or different perspective, that kind of spurred that, hey, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this change and get up early and get to the gym before work and see how that changes and evolves my work day. And it's been
and ever since then, things have been steadily better.
Yeah. Well, back to the main topic, and I think this bodes very well for this season that we're going to be going through. Self-confidence, self-worth, self-understanding, self-discovery. For the first season episode, the first season, we talked about kind of the ego matrix, and that's a new terminology that I'm going to kind of coin, because I just talked about the ego perspective or the ego reference, but I'm a Matrix fan, and so I watched that. And when I watched the first one, because I hadn't watched the first Matrix movie in a long time, but when I watched it, and Morpheus approaches Neo and talks about how you're living in this perception, this world that's all kind of make believe, but it's not really truth. It's not real. That really hit me, because as I looked back and reflected on my life and where I'm at now versus where I was at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, man, and then watching my kids grow up and that kind of stuff, the era of ego is starting to come to an end. There's a lot more people. You see a lot of social media. You see a lot of people coming out talking about waking up, being more consciously aware, being more connected to life purpose and that kind of stuff. And so, I really do feel that we all are in this ego matrix. We're in this funk and this persona of, I'm just going to be this, and I'm going to follow this lines, and I'm going to wear these masks, and because that's safe, that's secure, that's just what I've been cultivated and created to believe. And then if we decide to take the pill, and I think in the first one it was like the blue pill,
the red or the blue pill,
red or blue pill, right, and to have more of an understanding. So then we talk about, from the first season, we go from the ego matrix and what the characteristics of ego is, to then the awakening. Right, and what that process was for us, we had a lot of guest speakers come and talk about their awakening to something bigger and above, beyond for themselves. And so now, as we're transitioning into this third season, which is called The Gift, and now we're really going to talk about, okay, now that we got to a point from the awakening of questioning why we're here. What's the point? Who am I? How do I fit in? What power do I have? What impact can I make? Right? All the things that society doesn't teach us about. Now we're going to get into that fun stuff and talk about it. And for me personally, that's where I'm extremely passionate. But it's very interesting. So to kind of tie it all back, and I know I'm kind of elaborating a little bit more, but to tie it all back to what we're started off the discussion with, self-confidence and self-esteem, it's really a sad thing. It breaks my heart, because just in the last week and a half, I've seen 4 different posts on social media about people that were young that took their lives. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing that more often. And it could just be the fact that now we do have social media, but I don't remember that many deaths and suicides and that kind of stuff when I was younger. But it's happening more and more today. And so I think that we are getting so sucked into this vortex again of egos really trying to make one big push, right? Ego is really trying to make sure that it's having as much control on mankind and humanity as possible. So what do? We fall into that trap. And our ego matrix, right? And the movie that they tap in and go into the matrix is like social media. You watch people's social media, and you yourself, you even like, I can't take this anymore.
Yeah, I can't.
I've taken social media breaks. But going in and watching people's lives and are they really traveling every week to some exotic place? Are they really like, life is so great and perfect and wonderful? And that pushes a lot of people to be like, man, my life's not like that. So then I'm not
trap.
I'm not worthy. I'm not worth anything. I'm not at this place. And then my demons are then enhanced. The things that I battle and struggle with, my shadows, they're enhanced, and therefore I feel even worse about myself. So, really, I this topic or this season is going to talk a lot about that of gaining clarity, gaining confidence, and really it's belief.
Yeah.
Having that belief in who you are and what you bring to the table. There's a lot of different philosophies in the world, obviously, and even within the spiritually enlightened community, right? There's this thought process of, well, you're spirit and you're all things. So whether you believe that you're a child of God, you're a child of Allah, you're a creation, of some supreme being, or even that you're just an all intelligence being, a lot of people say you can be anything you want to be. Theoretically, I believe that. But I don't know, in my perspective and in my experience, I haven't found that to be true. Right? I just haven't. Like, trust me, if I could sing like Casey and JoJo or like John Legend, I'm telling you, I would do that. Trust me, I would want to do that. If I could be anything that I could want it to be, if I could do that, that's one thing that I would totally do, because I love music. I mean, it just speaks to my soul. And man, I try to sing, and I'm just like, I'm like that bird off of Little Mermaid when they're on the boat, and he just like squawking and squealing. But for me, in my experience, from a very simple, because I'm a simple-minded person. I'm a pretty smart person for the most part, but I like to keep things very simplistic. And for me, I may not be able to be all things, but when I was going through my awakening and challenging myself and challenging things and challenging my identity and challenging my social mass, I started to discover things that I am. Right? Mm-hmm. And for me, in a simple form, I said, well, you know what? I know that I am that because I've seen that part of me. Let me be more of that. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit more, or maybe a lot more. Maybe let me refine that aspect or element of me into something to where that becomes a very dominant strength.
Well, I think, excuse me, what you're saying is that kind of simplifies where I was getting at with my intention last year, because I wanted to be more, I wanted to have higher self-esteem, be more self-confidence. And I think it's because at the end of the day, where I'm trying to get to is to project that, is to express that, not in an arrogant, egotistical way, but to just be like, hey, I know who I am. I know who I am not. I know what I like, what I don't like. And then be able to communicate that effectively and make life, I wouldn't say easier for me, but it's just like, doors seem to open when you know what the hell you want. And you can effectively communicate, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Okay, you're not the one who can help me. Okay. Next person.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And so that's the building blocks. But I just realized that the foundation was, well, you have to, if you in yourself or for yourself don't believe you can do it, or you have it, or whatever, doesn't matter. Everything else really doesn't exist at that point, because you don't even believe it about yourself. So when you said that, that's what came to mind.
Do you have, or let me ask you how you respond to that. If someone comes to you and says, hey, you're a child of God, you're an intellectual being, all things are possible, right? All things are possible. You can be whatever you want to be. What does that bring up for you personally? What thoughts come to mind? And how would you answer that?
Yeah, that's probably, that may be true, but there's a limited amount of things that I will actually enjoy doing. I might be, I could be a race car driver. I could go and take singing lessons and try and go be the next Brian McKnight at 45. But I already know. Now, I'm not going to stick with that.
Why is that? Because
I wouldn't find it enjoyable. It'll be enjoyable to a point. But then when it's funny. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos of groups we grew up listening to in the early 90s. Common theme. Oh, wow. Great singer, great dancer. And they found their friend that was a good singer, good dancer. And they formed this group. And they hit it. And they had 5 number one songs. On their first album, their second album, they had 3 number one songs. By the third album, they couldn't stand each other. They broke up. And now they're doing some reunion tour at 50, 55.
In Windover.
Yeah. And that's the common theme.
Yeah.
And that right there is like, see, no, we can just skip all that. I'm not willing to invest my time and energy to get to that level. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's so to answer your question, yeah, all things may be possible. I can do whatever I want, but there's only a certain amount of things that I'm actually going to enjoy. 1, actually make the commitment to stick with. 2, that I'm actually want to do something with. And so just focus on that. You'll be much happier than
what a great answer, and that spurred the thought in my mind. There's a scripture out there that says, "Men are that they may have joy." And so, yeah, I guess the way that you answered that is that, yeah, we can be all things, which is true. I think with time and persistence, I mean, you could eventually get to some standard or measurement of that, right? Like I could go take singing lessons. Now, I may never be able to, reach the levels of Casey and JoJo or John Legend. However, I could definitely go become a better singer.
Yeah, you could improve.
And maybe do like little jingles here or there or something like that. But at the end of the day, would I have joy in that? Mm-hmm. And I think that as we do things that we have happiness and joy, our vibration, right? It's proven that we are vibrational beings. And when we are at our happiest, our vibration is at its highest. When we are depressed, when we're anxious, when we're down, our vibration is at its lowest. And so I think as we do things that really give us joy, pure joy, and I'm not talking about happiness. Matthew McConaughey has a great speech about talking about the difference between happiness and joy. And that's one of his philosophies too, is that he lives life basically doing things that create and bring joy in his life. And when that happens, our confidence, our belief, our self-awareness and understanding comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to really respond to that. So this season is really going to be focused around us as human beings. It's going to be focused around what types of things we can do to basically step into the greatest version of ourselves and to live a joyful life, to live a life of purpose. And just like when you ask someone to define what success is, there's general success terms out there, right? And a lot of it's correlated to financial gain and freedom to travel and to do things that other people won't. But the reality of it is, if you really drill down to each person, what does success look like for you? It's very different for each person, right? Yeah. For me, success is just in our personality and in some of our conversations, right? Success for me would be like traveling all over and interacting with a lot of people. And, for you, it's like, man, I just want a nice big old crib and a chill place, and then I can get away from everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to be around everybody. I want to be away from them.
And so I think that when you come to understanding that what success is like, that's also coming to understand that what our greatest self is different and varying for each person. But what I do know in my years and years of experience of managing people is when I ask people, who are you? 80% of them don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
And then when I ask them, well, what does success look like for you? A lot of people don't know how to answer that either. But yet we have this innate desire. We all have it. And correct me if I'm wrong. We have this innate desire that at some point in time in our life, we're going to sit there and we're going to say, who am I? Why am I here? And how can I be successful? Which means, how can I be of an impact to the world.
Well, I think,
at least in my world.
yeah, I agree. I think all the events of your life are driving you to a further clarification of that question or those questions. Who am I and why am I here?
Yep. And so because of that, we are naturally the most internal aspect of who we are as human beings is drawn to self-understanding and self-discovery. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to that point.
No.
And there's even people that get so hopeless that they get to the point of like, what's the point of being here?
Yeah.
So as we go through this season and talking about the topics on how to get there, I'm excited because this is where I really get jazzed up. Like understanding the ego matrix revolution and changed my life. My awakening and the experiences that I had, that we talked about in last season, really helped me gain clarity of things that I really wasn't.
Yeah.
So as we go through now this topic or this season, I always get asked this question. And when I'm working with someone on a one-on-one basis or in group settings, like, well, how do I get to that place? How do I get there? Okay, I understand ego now. I understand I'm at that point of awakening. But now how do I get to now being the best me? How do I get to the golden, the golden valley of opportunity? And what does that look like for me? And that's what we're going to go over through this season.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
So
it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, so in closing for this episode, I want to go. There's a book that I've been reading. It's called The Power of Letting Go.
Which one?
What's that?
Who's the author? There's like 50 of those.
Oh, really? I knew you were going to ask me this. Hold on, I'm going to find out.
Is it the same guy who wrote Power versus Force?
I don't know. Let me see. I have the book right here.
I was going to say. What's his name?
John Perkis.
Okay. No, that's
The Power of Letting Go.
Feel the touch of your feet on the ground.
There goes the audio there. The Power of Letting Go, How to Drop Everything That's Holding You Back. So he talks about, in the very beginning of his book, I found it very interesting. Because a lot of times what we try to seek is, hey, give me the magic recipe, right? Tell me what I need to do to get there, and I'll just do it. Or at least we claim we'll do it. But a lot of times, for whatever reason, there's internal things, right? Our shadows, our fears, our insecurities that hold us back. But very often, most often, especially when I've had coaching clients and working with people, and even in corporate America, managing the people, I've been told a lot by people, well, just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
In his book, in this book particularly, he starts off and says, science, a lot of people have a different opinion of science, right? People think that science is based off of facts and truth. And he says, in all reality, science isn't based off of discovering truth. What science does is it helps us eliminate things that are untrue.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that concept just blew my mind. And it reminded me back of a talk again Matthew McConaughey was talking about, and even Will Smith has talked about this too. When you're kind of on that path of self-discovery and learning who you really are, start by saying or finding out and discovering the things that you're not.
I almost think you can't help but not go through those experiences and go, yeah, this ain't it.
Like a process of elimination,
Yeah.
right? And then okay, now let's see what's now left on the table, and that gives us at least a starting point to say, okay, am I really these things? But I really love that because there's going to be things that worked for me. There's going to be things that worked for you. There's going to be things that worked for your guys' cousins and uncles and people who have kind of found themselves. Everyone has their own version, and everyone learns differently, and everyone has different tools that are going to help them get to a certain place. But at the end of the day, what matters most is that you actually do it.
Yeah.
Is that you actually go through the process of elimination or the process of discovery or the process of finding out and learning. So really, we're going to talk about a lot of different approaches on how we get to the place of understanding who we really are, how to build self-confidence, how to build self-awareness, how to gain true confidence and true belief, self-belief, how we get to that place. Now, how that happens, it's going to vary.
Yeah, that's unique to you.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll have times where, we can share a tool that helps somebody, or a resource that helps somebody, a book that helps somebody, or whatever. But just because it worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody. But if you're listening to this podcast, then the encouragement is this, and the challenge is this. It doesn't have to work. What has to work is you. You have to put in the time to go through the process of saying, okay, this is for me, or this is not for me.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do it, then at that point in time, I strongly encourage everybody to try these things and see what happens.
Yep.
You can't go wrong. And at the end of the day, all you do is just gain more knowledge or insights into something different.
Yep.
So on that note, thank you for joining us. We're super excited about the upcoming season. Happy New Year in 2022. Wishing everybody a year of success, abundance, growth, and most importantly, being your true authentic self, and understand that there's magnificence that lies within you.